I'm going to start this review by putting my hair up so it's uncomfortable, and I'm going to talk to you. So much better. Hey guys, today I'm going to be reviewing Tuck Everlasting by Natalie Babbitt. It has been so many months since I've done a book review, so bear with me. I did take a few notes and I did initially start writing down what I wanted to say for this review, but I think I'm just gonna go with my gut and talk about it. Tuck Everlasting is about a 10-year-old girl called Winnie Foster whose family owns a big forest that's across the road. One day Winnie just loses her temper and decides she's going to run away. So she runs to the forest across the road, and there she meets a family that never ages. And that's where the plot kind of begins. For the non-spoiler section of this review, I'm just going to tell you that this is a beautifully written book that makes you really question what it would be like to have immortality, and also the importance of spending time with those you love. Now, I don't know how much more I can say in the non-spoiler section, because honestly that is what this book is, and it's so tiny that I don't want to spoil you for it. Years ago I saw the movie with Alexis Bledel and they changed a few really important things in the book, so I kind of went into this with slightly different expectations, but nothing too huge, I guess. Only in the terms of they changed her age and it kind of changed her relationship with some of the characters. But this isn't a review of the movie, so I'm going to stop talking about that. I'm going to move on to the spoiler section of this review, which is kind of going to be a discussion on a couple of the things brought up in the book. So if you haven't read it yet, I definitely recommend that you do. It's so tiny, just pick it up and read it. Like, honestly, it'll take you a few hours and that's it. But I'm going to be spoiling some pretty important things, so if you haven't read it yet, come back when you have. I really liked Winnie as a character, and I didn't initially think that I would when I start reading the book, but let me just find, I marked out a point where I was like, this is the point where I really like her. It's when Winnie has first decided to run away and she's in the forest and she's like, so will I stay running away, or will I turn back? And I'm going to read it to you because I don't think I can say it better than Babbitt does. Winnie stopped abruptly and crouched down. If it's really elves, she thought, I can have a look at them. And though her instinct was to turn and run, she was pleased to discover that her curiosity was stronger. Winnie is willing to admit to herself as a child that she is scared, and she goes to that point at which she is scared and discovers that she is braver than that. I love that. I'm not going to discuss too many of the characters in this book in great detail, but one of the characters I do want to talk about is Jessie Tuck. Now, in the movie, from what I remember, I loved Jessie Tuck. And when I first is introduced to Winnie here, I really thought that he was a very funny and witty and clever character, and I was glad that they were in the story together. Then I changed my mind. There was a very specific point, I didn't mark this one so I'm not going to flick through and look for it. But in this book, Winnie is 10 and Jessie is forever 17. And when Winnie is staying the night at their house, he very selfishly and weirdly, when you think back on it, asks her to wait till she's 17, drink the water from the spring that makes them all young forever, and stay with the Tucks, stay with him, and they would get married and have adventures forever. Now bear in mind that Winnie is 10 and he is asking her to give up her entire life to spend with it. And it just seems incredibly selfish, because as a child this is obviously going to sound really appealing, to live forever and never have to age or die, and it just seems so incredibly selfish as someone with the knowledge of how terrible living forever is, to ask someone so young to do that. And it just made me really start to not like Jessie at all. Anyway, that was something I wanted to say about Jessie Tuck. The rest of the Tuck family is obviously different, particularly Tuck and May Tuck, who are willing to go to all lengths to stop this same thing happening to other people, particularly May Tuck, as seen later in the book when she shoots the man because he's going to sell to people who would blindly go into forever. One of the things I really liked about this book was the fact that the villain didn't have a name. The villain is always called as like the man in the yellow suit or the man in the yellow clothes or whatever, and that is something that I think that Babbitt was very clever in doing. She never names this character. You know, in horror movies, I don't watch very many horror movies, I will admit, but it always is scariest that second before you know what's about to happen. It's like once you see the monster, I mean after the shock of seeing it, it's not as scary as when you're wondering what is going to happen. So to not name her villain seems like a very clever move, because he is not intimidating when you first see him. But as you get to know him more, but you still don't know him, that's something that was so cleverly done. Anyway, I thought he was, as villains go, very good, very well done, very perfect for this story. Next thing I'm going to talk about is the ending. It's the last big comment I have to say on this book, and it's the most controversial point of this book. I'm going to see if I can find it. Years and years and years after the events at the end of the book, when Winnie helps the Tucks escape, the Tucks come back into Tree Gap, which is the place where they all live, and they pass through and they go to the place where Winnie once lived, and the house is no longer there. They pass through the town and they're kind of asking about the forest, which is now completely gone, and they go into the cemetery. And in the cemetery there is a headstone for Winnie saying, "In loving memory of Winifred Foster Jackson, dear wife, dear mother." Obviously, Winnie has not taken Jesse up on his offer of living immortally with him forever. She's decided instead to live a full life. She didn't take the spring water and exile herself from her family and stuff so as she could, in the future, at some point, join with the Tucks. She did what was probably the braver option and lived a life where she was happy. She became a mother and a wife. She lived life as she wanted to. She didn't waste her life waiting for when the Tucks would come back. This is the thing where most people disagree. Okay, I think it was the braver option. She lived a life. She didn't spend it waiting and waiting and waiting and then finally getting something that she wanted when she was 10, maybe. She was like deciding. She didn't know if she wanted it. People have differing opinions on this, whether it was right to have grown old and to have lived a life, or to have waited and then be young forever. The thing is with fictional immortality is that fictional immortality and happiness are never in the same character. Here's the thing, is that you can't wait for forever. You can't wait to start living your life. You can't wait and then stop when you're ready and then continue to wait until someone else is ready to. And that's the big thing I like about this book, is that Winnie chose to live her life. When she was offered this option to kind of get out of all of her responsibilities, and knowing that it wasn't going to be a full life, Winnie decided to live a full life, even though she knew it meant she would eventually die. And that is what I love about this book. It makes you kind of think about these kind of things, and it's kind of cool, and it's just beautifully written. All of it. I marked so many little quotes that I just think are beautiful, and then I marked different points, like this note here says, "I love Jessie." The next note says, "What a selfish brat." This kind of thing. Thinking about choices and thinking about opportunities and thinking about how to live. It's just what makes this book such a wonderful little classic. I had forgotten how much I love children's classics. This is definitely one that has reminded me. Let me know if you've read this book and if you liked it. Please don't spoil people in the comments, but if you think Winnie was right in choosing to live and, you know, not wait, maybe write in the comments, "Good girl Winnie." And if you disagree and think she should have, you know, gone with the Tucks, maybe write "Jessie Tuck forever" or something. I don't know. Don't spoil people though. I guess you don't really know what that meant if you read it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I know this review is a bit of a mess, but I'm not going to apologize for it, as I kind of wanted it to be more of a discussion type review kind of thing. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye.